18, one touchdown, one interception.
102 yards.
Yeah, it was good defense. It's a good game, man. Like, you know.
That fumble 6, man, that's my fault for trying to get more. I was just trying to squeeze 3 in the half, man, and it cost me a fumble 6.
All right, Glenn.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, bro. And the crazy thing is, I was looking at the clock. I was like, all right, I'm about to try to take this down to 0 while running it back. And then before I even got to the end zone, he ran out of sprint. So I was like, I might not even score.
Yeah, that was a big time play right there. Like, without that, I mean, it looked like almost a tie game, almost. I mean, you never know what happened in the second half. The score is different.
Well, really, I think the biggest play of the game was Freeland Speaks getting that record of passive.
Oh, God, that killed me. That was my first pick 6, yeah. I was like, what happened?
But you still scored.
Yeah, but it's the pick 6, that's like the mental part that I wanted.
Oh, wait, no, you didn't. You didn't get a touchdown. You only had 3.
Yeah, because I went down, I think, he had to lose 3-3, and then he threw the pick to Diablo after that, instead of having just the momentum just from having that pick, because it just kind of changes the game plan and everything. But it was a couple times I was like, there's no point in me even trying to test these guys, because like even when I had people beat like on the run, he clearly beat Sertain off the line of scrimmage. He went short back out KO.
Y'all got that.
Yeah, short back out KO at 98 speed negated all of that. Perfect. He beat him clean all the time. I'm like, okay, good. We're good. Opposition catching everything, but he's still not good. I'm just like, man, I don't even know why I'm trying these dudes.
Nah, man.
A couple plays, but I'm just like, in the corner, I'm glad it was Byron Kirby instead of somebody else, because Aaron Smith broke a tackle and got a first down. A couple people broke 3 tackles and got
oh, gosh, yeah, bro, right there at the end of the game, man, I was like, yo, man, boys, I just need that tackle. It went all wrong.
Oh, yeah, on that Carson ran.
Yeah.
He got 13. Yeah, that was really unexpected. I was just gonna try to get some yards. But once I seen how that clock was going, I was like, bro, I can't even think about trying to give you a chance to get this ball back. But absolutely not, because we didn't see what's happening there. But it's just one of those things. Like I had a lot of respect for your secondary. So I was like, man, I don't like playing like this, but I'm gonna have to make sure I control this tempo.
Hey, you gotta do that. Hey, you win or loss, right? You start talking.
Nah, but are we live or no?
No, we're still live. But it's I'm about to. Yeah, we live.
So we are.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the night.
Okay. All right, you're not bothering me. I'm just running some of these clips. Man, I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm about to turn on conservative or not. I was like, yo, I'm good, bro. When was it Kendrick? What's his name? Came and called my backup in the back. I was like, yo. He caught that man at the line and screaming something sick. I said, yo, this right here ain't what it is, man.
Bro, I'm telling you, like that's how I felt early on. Can't even risk this no more. We gotta just go ahead and just play it right. And then just do what we gotta do, because we can't. Because it's not a trap game. It's one of those games where it's like, you know what the other team has. And I was thinking, like, bro, man, I was like, is there any other secondary in the NFC that, like, would change my game plan like this? I was like, oh. So, we not going deep into it. Oh, and play that. Well, no, it was a great play by you, but I snapped it too early when you stopped the stretch run.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was like, if I didn't have conservative on, I might have been able to try to shake it and get outside. That was just an excellent play.
I kind of figured, at one point I figured you had conservative carry on, so I knew I could kind of, take a little more leeway on, pursuits.
But we took a couple at a time, like, man, just hold on to the football. That's all I need y'all to do. We just gonna make our way down the field, slowly but surely, take the clock.
But Diablo on your linebackers is an issue, because that kind kind of changes how I read routes, like where I look for my progressions. Like on that play action when I threw it, I'm going to pull it up right now. I was sick. I'm like, I can't believe they don't have it on it. But, bro, when I tell you, they might actually. But, man, I was just sick because when I threw it, I was like, yo, I'm staring at him. Why did I throw the ball? Like, I'm literally staring at this man. And I still threw the ball in. I was like, yeah, he really good.
I was like, bro, discipline, like a lot of rushing the passer, there's a lot of slot in the gameplay.
That's what happened. Your hand broke free. Yeah, he broke free early, so. Literally every route was coming to him, looking at all of them.
Yeah, a lot of slot.
Bro, that pass interference when I got you on that corner, I was like, yep, got you. You came in, bro, I was cheesing. I'm like, yeah, see, that's going to cost you. And that was before, I said, uh-oh, Z didn't make an adjustment. Let me catch this corner out right quick.
Well, like, I kind of can, like, I'm not going to lie, but I thought I got there right where the ball did, but I just didn't get it. That was a great play, because I wasn't expecting it at all. It was just kind of like one of those things where I was like, all right, I can't let my defense be the first to break, because it's going to be, because if you get the offensive momentum, then it's going to be a hard day.
By the time we started rolling, it was about too late. It was just, man, I hate when you get those scenarios from people like, yo, coach, get me the game. I had two players, man. One of my secondary running back, Jeremy Ely, and D-Hop, both wanted more touches. I'm like, in the same game? Not this game, y'all. Like, shit, we got to kind of switch this shit up. Like, this is not the time for y'all to be going through a midlife crisis and want more action.
Nah, I Jefferson had one too. I'm like, bro, like, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Can't do nothing for you.
Can't take that up with God, bro.
No, but for real, sorry, bro, you lost 20 more hours, but you'll be alright.
Nah, but for real, like, seriously. Man, that pick hurt so bad. Didn't that second one? Like you said, because it was a bullet pass. But I'm like, nah, man, you're not in the play. That's me. Like, I need this.
It was very lucky. Because normally, I have my skills there, so he can make up more ground than the recircle in this.
Yeah.
Everything's been doing his thing, so I can't really complain. But that was a saving from we were out of position too. And it was a good play call for sure. And then D-Hop broke like 8 tackles.
Yeah, he did. D-Hop wanted it. D-Hop said, yo, we need this dub. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, leadership.
So, thank God you didn't let him go.
Yeah, but I just sometimes, man, he can be annoying, man, because of the lack of speed. Bro, I feel like they cheated me when I tried to hit Isabella on that streak. Like, Isabella was, like, stuttering. I'm like, nah, man, don't do this, bro. Isabella got this man beat. Yeah. I was waiting on the flag, too.
Got lucky. Hey, I'll take everything I can get, bro. I didn't expect you to throw it.
Oh, yeah, no, I was letting that ride.
I had enough space with the end zone. Like, I think that would just run out of room to go. And that's what it came down to.
Yeah, bro, I was sick, man, but
It was a good game, though.
Real good game, man. I think it was a good show. If we could have got that tackle, bro, we was gonna score. I think you know that. I hope you know that. We was coming for 7 because
I said I didn't want to the defense on the field. Even though they hadn't been playing that, I just don't like those play game situations because then I knew you would go for 2 as well. You won't go let that go to OT.
no, it's gonna be winning. Damn, bro, if I touch past that, there's no way in the world of, man, this dude got beat by 7 yards. For sure, 5. There's no, man, touch pass, he might be going for 6. Because he only got 40 yards to run, and he was out of there.
I was in 2, so my safety was like playing deep third. So he was definitely going to score.
I opened up the playbook a little bit against you, I ain't gonna lie, man, just because it was a lot of plays I've been sitting on. I was like, nah, man, I can't do that. I was so sick of, I'm looking at the plays as they go, man, like that. like literally, you caught me making adjustments, and I was like, oh man. And I was still hoping that I would have got there because he came and hit stick, and I'm like, yeah, drop that football, drop the football.
As soon as the linebacker didn't keep going, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna let it fly. I should have let it up a little more, but I didn't know how. I mean, because Isaiah and Hulu plays a lot of stuff, so.
Yeah, they normally do, but that was, I think that was just a good alignment. I'm looking at it right now, pre-snap, because of what I called, they were spread out pretty far, so. But they've been closer as possible. Then I had that bullshit kick return, man. That was fucking stupid because I was trying to kneel. I was like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you coming out there?
It was just a lot going into that game. I was like, all right, we got to play some momentum football here. And after you got the first pick, I was like, nah, man. Because I remember I know exactly what happened the last time we played. And I threw a pick. And just like that, the game was turned around. So, can't risk it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. You did. Oh, that was a throw out of sack. I said, why did you throw it in the halfback? But that's a throw out of sack. That's my boy coming through. That's rookie that got back. Man, that would help so much with playing development XP and shit if they had the pressures on throws. Because that's why you took
He disrupted. I was like, why is he? I was like, why? Like, why did I get hit? And then I went back to watch the play and my center got beat on the block. I was like, bro, you can't get that. Like, you can't get beat there because I had at least 10 yards.
Yeah. I'm looking at it now. He was downfield. That was actually finna get ugly, actually.
You didn't just pulled off for Jefferson. I was like, oh, no way, he just did that. Let me throw it. Pick six.
Yeah, I tried to sit with Jefferson just long enough for you to throw it. I'm like, okay, cool, he gonna give it to me right here. But then we get you, I'm like, bro, change direction, because you know the damn camera's spinning shit. Like, nah, bro, don't you run into that damn line.
That was a good play, though, bro.
I really hate being in them situations, man, because I'm like, yo, especially against a good coach like yourself, I'm like, man, this dude not for to make too many mistakes. And he got Dalvin Cook. It's just not for to be a lot of mistakes made.
I just didn't, I was like, bro, I can't test your second year.
Yeah, you can.
And get away from that. Some people can, I'm not going to. Bro, I was looking at your roster the other day, like, bro, what are you building? It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, man, that run by Carson, that pretty much, I mean, you played a great game, but that run kind of sealed it. That was the tail of the tape. I was trying, like, I felt like this was the first game I really got to see that reach for an ability working, man. Like,
Bro,
Hines had so many first downs just reaching for it.
I was huge because we were trying to take his head off. I was like, oh, yeah, we about to crush him. And then he just, I was like, dang, reach for it, get a hit stick.
Yeah, bro, it messed me up too. Cause I almost went conservative. I'm like, well, let me wait, man, because I've been watching some stuff, and I was like, well, I've seen some things that I don't know if they're negating hit sticks or what, but it's making a difference, and that's not what I did. But we'll talk about that offline. But Danielle Hunter is a problem, bro. He probably made 3 key plays off the top of my head that I was like, yo, that hurt me, you know.
That fumble before the half definitely changed things. I was just like, all right, we just gonna take these into the half first and then just see what happens, just play coverage.
I was finna go get 3 more. I ain't even gonna lie to you. He said, D. Lloyd said his 6E is a real thing. Bro, that RPO, bro, I was so sick like PO, man. I was sick.
I had seen it. That's what we were talking about. But I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here. I'm glad he got his hill. That didn't look like, why is he there?
But I didn't think you were gonna get there in time because you didn't commit right away. I said, oh, I can beat him. That almost got real ugly too. I was like, boy.
Yeah, man, you made some good throws, but he had some good reads and everything. Just thankful we came away with that victory. And now you can turn things back up against Strana next week.
Yeah, man. Drama learned the hard way when we tried to tell him on air, bro. He wasn't listening to us.
Right.
he was talking about playing the game from top to bottom against that. I said, bro, don't you do that. You better take your one drive, and it is what it is.
Yeah, now he wise out. I don't know why he had this. But,
and he got 62 dropped on his head because of it.
Yeah, he did. He was like, yo, you're playing the same way up 35 like you was playing up 0. I'm like, what did you think was going to happen, dog? Man, put up 20. And all 3 of those were defensive. Well, two picks.
They were basically all the
Yeah, and then a pick 6. A fumble 6. Well, that hurt, brother. That defense. Then we scored 7 in the 4th. And I was looking to get 3 more, man. But we had to take 3. I was thinking, like, nah, man, come on, boys. Like,
I did think you were going to go for it. But I'm glad you didn't.
I thought about it, but I was like, yo, let's just punt the ball. We're playing decent defense. We kind of held Cook, down like nothing amazing, but we didn't let it go crazy. So I was like, yo, we doing all right, boys. Let's just play defense, man. Yeah, we had a few plays that, did all right, but boy, looking at your zone defense, this shit crazy, bro. Like, nothing behind you at all. That's the move I see. Like, I'm watching the way the boys drop back.
The big plays, bro. No big plays. Keep everything moving.
With the way you run it with Dalvin, man, because you kind of passing more, you worried about the X Factor joint? Or you just going to let it do what it do?
Not necessarily.
Because when you scored, I think they were like, yo, 3rd touchdown of the season, the announcer. I'm like, number 3. I'm like, but yeah, I was in the same boat, so I get it.
And I like the way that my schedule plays out, per se. To make that happen. So, I'm not worried about it right now. If it comes down to it's like week 8 or 9, I'm not where I want to be. Then it's a little cause for concern. But right now, I'm not too worried. So we can get him what he needs.
Makes sense, man.
Yeah, I guess it because I was like, I'm not going to push this and lose this game because Cook is over there sitting at 4-0. The way our schedules are this year, every game counts. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat. Let's see here. I got D-Hop a couple times. I'm trying to grab these last couple highlights right into the end when I started really opening up the pass. I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream, though, for my users, and then we can keep talking shit. Viewers. But now, for everybody checking out the game, man, appreciate y'all hanging out. It's your boy Gooseneck Gamer. We out. Let me see here.
Allen for a 6th-round pick. Like, what? Like, why do you want you're not going to get Keenan Allen for a 6th-round pick. Show me you were trying to actually get Keenan.
You should be able to change your opinion based off of facts.
I think the only thing is the only downfall or the
in-game death story situation. If you guys don't know what happened, essentially he had a player in Troy Dye who went from normal to star via his coordinators, but the game still gave him his dev opportunity to go from normal to star. So he passed that by going over that. He had three tackles for loss,
which would be for superstar or X Factor.
Right. So he had 3 tackles for a loss, but the game only gave him the dev from normal to star. Do you think he deserves to go up to a superstar based off those 3 tackles for a loss?
Nope. Yes. That's not what the dev game was for.
Yes. Yes.
As
long as we know what the parameters are already.
Here's the thing. No,
we already know what the parameters are, though. We know what it takes to do it.
You guys let me ring the bell first before you started fighting.
He was star, or he was normal when he got the dev. That's just how it goes.
Well, okay.
So I got a defensive line game play dev story the other day through DevGen. Interceptions isn't on there, but my D tackle got an interception. I think that's pretty superstar-like. I didn't get a dev boost because it's not listed.
But that's not the same thing.
Yes, it is.
That's not the same thing.
I did a superstar thing with my D tackle, and he should have got boosted. He did a superstar thing with his normal player. Why should he get superstar?
His player's normal. His player should have already been a star, and that falls back on the commissioners.
But would he have still gotten that dev game if he was bumped up to star 2 weeks ago when coordinators came out?
That's a fair point.
Is there a different trigger?
I think if you edit him like that, I don't think you'll get a dev story right away like that.
So what we're coming to, it's the commissioner's fault.
No, it's just you don't get it.
No, it's the commissioner's fault. So that's what we're saying. I'm saying it's the commissioner's fault. They suck.
That's fine, but his drama, it just, good job. Suck. Hey, first, you lost by 50. You lost by 50 at that, so I don't give a fuck about your dev story. You should have won the game. Maybe I can think about it. But it's you're normal when you get the dev story. You go to
so
that's
basically
a wasted story.
So that's where I agree with you, because you don't know if he would have got a dev story if he was already a star.
Exactly. I think if you edit him, I think it affects the triggering. It may not, but it may also. So it is what it is.
There's too much gray area. Like at first I was like yes, but since that point that totally swung my perspective on it, because who knows if he really would have had a dev story if he was already a star. So. If drama wants to be bad.
So Neff admitting that his opinion could be swayed.
Well, I am very good at taking what facts I know and changing my opinion after I know the fact. Like, and Q was in chat yesterday about me not knowing him going into DMs and asking about trades. Now. Maybe you did. Maybe you offered absolutely nothing. You had first-round picks you didn't care for. You had this. You had that. Maybe you didn't offer enough to get certain players, or maybe you just didn't want certain players because they weren't fast. They weren't Madden. They weren't MUT-related. They weren't MUT type of guys. Maybe you didn't want those guys because they didn't really benefit your offense. I get it. Like, I was in DMs. Like, if I'm wrong, say, hey, look at these, blah, 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 this is why you're wrong. And I'll be like, all right, I was wrong. But if you're going to just say, you don't know all the facts, and I was in DMs, well, what DMs were you saying? Were you saying, hey, give me Keenan Allen for a 6th-round pick? Like, what? Like, why do you want you're not going to get Keenan Allen for a 6th-round pick. Show me you were trying to actually get Keenan.
You should be able to change your opinion based off of facts.
I think the only thing is... The only downfall or the downside, it's not a bad thing because, he makes sure it goes to people that are being used. But the thing is, the coordinator's coming out so late. And obviously, there's so many edits. We have to do them week 1 or week 4 because that's when people shave the rosters down. Because you don't want your points going to people.
Should it be that late?
Some guys get tired.
If you decide to wait, so you ensure that only your players go, then should you be rewarded? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's your risk.
I wouldn't do that. I would make the deadline. You got to do it. It's coordinators. Coordinators are normally hired in the off season.
Yeah.
Do it post draft, so that way you have your rookies. Because we've had guys. Okay, yeah, here's your coordinators. They get better in the preseason, but guess what? They still get cut. So. You just do them right after the draft when the names are, acclimated with their teams in the system, and then run it from there. And then you have all your edits and all your edits.
Honestly, here's
there's so many edits. You got to edit 20 different players for one team.
Here's the issue with that whole situation. I guess not with coordinators. So with coordinators,
it's not really an issue at all
because it's random. because it's random.
Exactly.
But
Training camps that are different.
Yeah,
Training
training camp
by hand.
Yes,
You're only doing 3 players at that, so that's not bad. And you're picking.
Well,
I think the issue is like training camp, so I think there aren't any. I think training camp runs smooth.
Yeah, training camps have no issues. I think it's fine. Usually, people want to wait until they know the roster and who's going to be a certain dev. Like you draft 2 linebackers, both at like 68, 69, or around the same overall, and you're like, I'm going to cut one and I'm going to keep one.
But if you do that, do you feel like you shouldn't then be like, how come mine's the last? How come, you know what I mean? Because it's going in order. It should go in order if you submit it.
But I feel
it should go in order. 110%. You shouldn't be able to choose and pick. It should go in the order that it goes into the chat. You shouldn't be able to, the only time it should be, different is when 2 commissioners are tackling a certain thing. Like if somebody's doing a tribute request. I'll go from the top. You go from where we left off last, and I'll go from, the last one that was posted. Yeah, exactly.
That's how it did go when only one person did it, though. Don't you just take over where the guy left off?
That's how it should be. But I've noticed that people will jump around.
Some people do certain stuff. But I mean, it depends about if this is a dev upgrade, a re-roll, something like that. Obviously, you jump around, you do those so people can play their games.
Yeah.
But when it comes to entry requests, obviously, I thought that they always went in order. I don't pay attention to how they do them. Obviously, you guys do content and request stuff, so you.
I've noticed it with coordinators and training camps mainly, not as much.
Coordinators and training camps, I know they were trying to do that for people's games because obviously, if you have a guy playing on Tuesday and he's up the bottom of the list. You got a guy playing Thursday, you're going to do the guy for Tuesday so he can get his stuff before his game. You can do the Thursday guy Wednesday night.
So I haven't noticed that.
But attribute requests, that's different. Coordinators and training camp, it's okay. Attribute requests, you should be going in order.
Attribute requests are in order unless it's like Neff was saying, like say 2 people are working on attribute requests.
Yeah,
one might start at the bottom, one might start at the top, and then meet in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah, and then if 2, just heads up, if 2 commissioners are doing a tribute request, make it a show. Go in the party with each other and, talk about PML while you're doing a tribute request. You'll be able to tell them, hey, listen, I just finished here. And you'll be like, yeah, I finished here, so we're all done and stuff like that.
I feel like, so obviously, we do owners meetings after the season. Do you think stuff like that should be brought up during season? Training camps and coordinators and stuff like. Do you think those should be like? I think we should have a tab that we can mark stuff down so we can come back to it later.
Exactly.
Because we'll go find it in chat. Like, dude, we have thousands of messages a day. You type keywords, it's still hard to find stuff. But I feel like we're asking. Okay, I feel like if it's, I don't know. I feel like we should be able to vote for stuff during the season. Like, I just went to him today. We got approved in the offseason that normal and star players can be moved position-wise after week 2, because obviously our deadline's week 2. After that, it'll cost content points. And I want to move Quan Alexander to outside linebacker. He's a superstar. So I'm like, hey, if I apply for the reroll, 30 points, can I just leave him at outside linebacker because that's what I want to do? I want to move his position. And he sends me a screenshot, says, oh, reroll, if you put him here, you have to put him back immediately. Basically telling me no. I'm like, but we could do a normal star. Hold on. But I said we could do normal star. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, but I'm paying triple the price. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. Why are we allowing to move them but not these guys if I'm paying triple the price? And everything basically comes down to policing everything. But for my Madden tracks that for you. It tracks when superstars get moved. So it's like, you don't really have to police the superstars. You just have to take my points and let me move my guy.
So here's my counter to that. We have a superstar / X Factor position change.
But that cuts off at week 1. You can't even go and look at it. It just says you can only do this between preseason week 1 and regular season week 1. It's the same thing if you don't have enough points. Like if you don't have 75 points, you go look at customizabilities. It says you need 75 points to access this, you can't see anything unless you have that amount of points.
And that's something I thought about last season because I wanted to move Eric Armstead to defensive tackle. If you're spending the points anyway to move somebody that's a superstar X factor, why can't you move it past week 2? Why can't you move it whenever? You're already spending a ton of points.
We approve normal to star. Why don't we just approve all players? Because, I mean, ultimately, we know why we can't do it because it allows, if it messes with the devs game, it's easier to do this and get a dev from this guy. Moving linebackers to DN to get sacked and everything like that. So, that's originally
more expensive.
I feel like if we're
thinking changing them around, yeah.
You got to pay 10 points to move a normal guy. I'm paying 30 to move a superstar. I feel like that should be okay if we're allowing to move players anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe make it if you're worried about that, maybe make it 40, which is more than the reroll. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But this is also a thing where I think we should be able to vote during the season. Bringing it up to JT's attention, he could put it in the announcements. Hey, someone said, they suggested since we can move these guys, we should be able to move superstars. Yes or no, and just go from there.
All right. So I think the thought in a nutshell, just so it's not a bunch of rapid changes.
Yeah, exactly. But
it costs points. So yes, I agree, but at the same time, it costs points. Not everyone's got the points to move all guys like that.
I agree that it would be something that definitely could get approved. I'm just saying I think that's why everything's held until the off season specifically. But
and I know JT's always on top of guys trying to hack devs and stuff and cheaper contracts and stuff like that by moving positions.
So if you take HD's plan and just get rid of all that, get rid of abilities,
So my whole thing on it,
for president.
This is where the overthrow of JT started.
Right. I tried to become the commissioner, but he said I have to cool down on the trolling, so I gave him a frowny face, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
I'm calling too much on these every other day.
I think the vibe that I got was JT wouldn't mind it, but I think he likes me trolling more. So it's I'm okay with that.
Yeah. You're good for the league. You could be a side commissioner, kind of like I am. He'll just hit your DMs and ask you your opinion on something, and then move into the night and talk to his other commissioners about it. But with that whole situation, I don't believe we should vote during, like D-Lloyd said. I think it's changing too much in the short, in a quick, overthinking it too quick and stuff like that. But I do agree with major things, like minuscule stuff like that, content points, changing positions. That's minuscule. We could do that in the off season. If it's something major, like game breaking, or something that really affects, something like affects teams and stuff like that. Let's say our league for some reason had, bench players that were low 80s, and you had your thing set up at 80, and you're like, listen, I got all these bench players at 80, we should increase it to 85. And you got all these teams that are struggling with cap, struggling with this, struggling with that, and they need to shed some guys. Then I could say maybe we vote on, should we raise it to 85 because, X and X and X and Y and Z and all that.
But that makes sense. Just small. I don't know. I agree. But okay. So what do we have? We're almost at an hour. I wanted to mention one thing real quick since we're talking about rules. I guess it'd be the last thing. So A-Rod, when we played our game, was up by 29. Okay. Mm-hmm. The rule says 28. He still had Joe Mixon in. He said he had all the start.
You should get a suspension.
Yes. But what
should get a suspension.
Is that that was my question. Is it just flat out if they're in the game, they're in the game? Because he's like, oh well, then he's like I laid down, I showed sportsmanship, but I'm like, that doesn't matter. The rule says if they're in the game, period, taking snaps, I don't care if it's a QB kneel, they're in the game. You know what I mean? That's basically what the rule says. Do you think? Well, actually, A-Rod think or nefarious think that he should get suspended. I do as well because he was actually running the ball and stuff with his starters.
Yeah, if you're being petty and it's like you said, a QB nail, and he's going to start in for a QB nail, I think that's being petty and it's too much.
But the rule just says in the game. Like, it doesn't say anything else. It just says if starters are in the game, up.
I think it might be whatever you feel like. I feel like it should be like context behind it, but I also feel like if you break the rule, you know what I mean? It's almost like in real life, like you could decide if you want to prosecute or not.
Yeah.
Like if you want to prosecute, I feel like it should be enforced because it is a rule. You know what I mean? I feel like
that's what I was saying to him. That's what I was saying. If he was running the ball with Joe Mixon, I'm like, all right, like enjoy it, but like he's not going to be there next week. And he's like, oh, I should have ran it in and scored. You know, I showed sportsmanship. I laid down. And I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I get that, but my only response, I'm just like, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm just like, he was in the game. You were up 29 points. That's your own fault. I did make a point. This isn't his first term. He gets players suspended every season. So he just had 4 suspended to start the year.
Yeah, so
that's actually one of them.
So here's what I got for A-Rod. Like, A-Rod's going to listen. Is it egregious and, is it, you should get a suspension? No. But we vote as a league. We made the rule. Everybody has to follow every rule.
I think it's like a burn situation, right?
I know, man.
Do we agree with it? No. But if it's a rule, we gotta either get rid of that rule or change that rule. But
in chat, I don't know if JT responded. Mel even asked, he's like, "Yo," he's like, "What are the lines to this?" Because, I when I said, you had Joe Mixon and Sia, he's like, "What are the rules though?" It's like it doesn't matter if you nailed it or not. The rule says if you're in, you're in. You're on. Basically, you're suspended. So
I don't think anybody's.
Are you suspending Joe Mixon because he ran the ball with him? Are you going to suspend his quarterback? Are you going to suspend his best player? You know what I mean? Now, who gets suspended? All 3 of them? Whoever's in the game?
Yeah.
Do you suspend starters that are in the game? Like, at what point? Because, again, this has been a big problem for us. So you suspend his quarterback, his running back, and his wide receiver because they were all in the game? Is that how it is?
You can't suspend everybody, that's for sure. You can't be like, you suspend all the starters.
Well, obviously you're not going to, but it's a skill position, I think. So you can't suspend the D-line and stuff. Like, you can suspend his entire offense, basically, his starters.
I think as a commissioner, you have to. So if he has you get a player suspended, you can either choose the best player on whatever side of the ball, or you could bring a list of players, skill position players, to, A-Rod and be like, listen, pick a name out of these 5. Joe Mixon, who else?
I don't think I would let that player. I wouldn't let that player pick who they want out. I'd let the guy that got, I would have him take it. If you took the list, say to me, since it was against me, and let me pick what player he loses, because obviously no one's going to pick their quarterback. No one's going to pick their starting running back. They're going to pick the wide receiver. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, I get that point.
So it's like, it doesn't. That's why.
Honestly, it's going to be interesting because it is a new rule. It's a new rule. So,
but also, how does this work? Do I have to go into the sim score and submit it? Because we know sim scores aren't looked at immediately. So do
I think
like, hey, get starters.
I think you have to bring it up to the commissioner, JT's opinion. Like, bring it up to them.
How do you go about that? Because we know sim scores aren't looked at unless they're crazy hit. He's already said that unless you're really hit for some sort, it doesn't get looked at.
We should have a ticket system, like submit a ticket.
Yeah, I think it's a double. I think it's a double thing. I think you should submit the sim score and then you just you bring it to the attention of the commissioner. It's like you do the sim score just because you want to make sure it reflects on his sim score, but then also you flip on the other side and make sure you bring it to the attention of JT or a commissioner that this happened. And since it's a new rule, I don't know the guidelines on a new rule. You might get surprised tomorrow and JT says, first time's a warning, second time you get a player suspension. Like that whole CPU thing.
I was going to say, I think we're all old enough, we all understand, and, we played the game long enough. I think warnings are out the window.
Yeah, but that's...
Especially as the first guy, and it sucks that it's A-Rod because we all love A-Rod, but it's like you...
He said that loosely.
I think you need to be made as the example.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen. First guy, That's what I'm saying. Like, does he just go suspend 3 starters on his offense? Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, Baker lost 6 devs when he got caught tanking as the first guy. Yeah, we've had guys tank since. Yes, nothing's happened. But I think it's slowed down for sure. So we had 4 guys tanking that year.